Hello. Happy day at day for coding developer together. Now that the web page is squared away enough, I'm proud of it. A lot better. And all of my branding kind of fits. It's very minimal. I think that we're going to do that in one of these lessons. Actually pick the colors for my brand, and we pick the fonts, and yeah, we work through my material. Okay, we need to make a checklist, find everything. But say hello, happy Friday in the chat. What do we have to do today? And what have we been doing? If you've been tuning in, that's great. If you haven't been, so you know we've been working on this web dev for beginners. Let me copy that. Links in the chat. And I forked this over from Microsoft. It's been available for a while, and it's a often we're at the end of our web dev for beginners. Whenever they say beginners, I mean it. Lesson 1 was got into like GitHub version. All of these videos available on the YouTube channel. Those aren't very pretty thumbnails. I'm gonna get better at that, but I'm making sure that every single video is available. I happen to miss one of these streams backed up days. I'm posting the and besides working on this, we spend every day. It's Monday through Friday. Spend 30 minutes working on this curriculum, and then we spend 30 minutes working on the home. This grow from a very simple base, right out of the box React application to what it is today. And not anything to be proud of yet, but you can kind of see it coming together. With just like 30 minutes. Um, but we also have some fun projects that we're doing. Yesterday, we did an introduction. So far, it's been introduction to programming languages, tools, and JavaScript. You've seen me use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript along the way, but now we've got the lesson where we're doing introduction. And it'll be our Terrarium project part 2. Please check out the lesson from yesterday, the Terrarium project part 1, with the introduction to HTML. I assume that you have that knowledge, that familiarity, and that as we move forward. Because as we introduce CSS, I don't know if it'd be impossible to describe the utility of CSS without knowing about HTML, but I would say that would be a challenge. Because cascading style sheet, all it is a long list of objects with key value pairs, like a reference. Nothing complicated. It very much dependent upon our semantic markup and the architecture. Really, what drives color size. And the great way to think of it is just makes the web look nice. CSS, if you can't remember cascading style sheets, color size, shape, but each word is important because it cascades. What you write at the top, over here, what you write at the top is inherited all the way down the tree of nodes. So if I write that this font family is at the top of the body node, then every other element below the body is also going to have that. That's, I guess, a no-no in design. In design, you want to have at least fonts, one major font that grabs the attention, one minor font. And typically, all of them are going to come in different. But yeah, H1 font is inherited from the body. And we've talked about this where it's nodes, go from one to the next. It's very important when you're using your HTML, your semantic markdown language, markup language. You establish that hierarchy and you're able to traverse nodes in JavaScript as you're doing DOM manipulation, document object. Very important. And these effects cascade. You start with your index HTML to reference style sheet. Style. It's a common practice to call in the red, just because it grabs your attention. Okay, hey, I've imported my sheet. Before I start writing a bunch of styles, scratching my head and go, why isn't that working? Well, then you just say, hey, is everything red? Okay, it's red. It's working. Now let's code one up. And as soon as who takes over, this question, red takes over. Red, whatever you give for styling will always always be more important. It'll always register quicker than, not quicker. I'll always see register importance than the default setting, default styles. You do have multiple selectors. There's class that you use whenever you think about your queries, cascading style sheets. IDs reserved for JavaScript, and tag. I don't know if I've ever one of those. I'd like to see how that comes into. But you create the div element, and then you can give it an ID, you can give it a class, and apparently a tag. They weren't given example, and then it will inherit it. And your layouts. The thing about CSS is really, really hard. And anybody can write 1,000 little one-line things of CSS. But people that are good at it think about the structure and they apply styles to layouts called themes or templating. And if you're really good at CSS and you know how to make that work, okay, we're going to grab this one thing and everything has this style until there's a smaller element over there and that style just you only have to deal with that because we've already dealt with most of the styling right here. And here's an illustration of dominance. There's a tweet somewhere, a meme in that. Styles built into the web browsers. Your CSS file is more important than that. What comes in the head is more important than that. Inline styles is even more important than that. I think that makes sense. Your inline styles is what you actually write, and that's very, as opposed to the head, which would be typically included in your index HTML document. So we call that important, as opposed to what's over in your CSS file, which I think we just later, and then what's built into web browsers first. It's actually looking to be styling like this. Your position. There are so many of these. I want to say the only way, I guess you could memorize, but the best way get to know these is to style something. Make a simple web page and have fun with vanilla HTML and CSS, because no matter what styling library you get into, like Bootstrap or Tailwind, Material UI or Semantic UI, whatever, they're still going to be using CSS. That's what they use. Whenever you download the package, call the package and invoke it, and start using their elements, it's styled components that come together in a friendly way, and then you're passing props to bigger, or smaller. And then the moment you get into a corner, the moment you get stuck on something, you're gonna divert back to the vanilla Java or to the vanilla CSS anyways. That'll be the best way, because people say, well, stop fighting with Bootstrap and just give it some vanilla CSS and that'll supersede everything. Oh, okay. So learn CSS first. And after you're confident with CSS and you can do that, then add a library. All right. One reason why we're using Bootstrap with this is because we want to get it out of the box. We're building the page together. This is made with Bootstrap. But what you're seeing me do is whenever the best thing to invoke or the best thing to call, I'm just probably what I've done with. What else? Does anything? Position, absolute. That means it's stuck there. Width at 150%. That means it's going to be 150% of the container that it's in, not like of the total screen. You got to think about what element is it in, and it's going to take up not 100%, but 150% of that. So actually, only 75% of it's going to be visible unless there's contain on there. And then your Z index is 2, which means it's going to be on top of everything. It's going to be a big, wide thing on top of everything. If you made it minus, then you would send it to the back. But 2 is coming up. Love to find out if I'm. Okay, cool. Right on time. That's 10 minutes introducing CSS with awesome graphics. Questions with our pre-lecture quiz. HTML elements must have either a class or an ID in order to be styled. What do we think? Opportunity. Chat. True. Class is a way to style. That's true. ID is a way to style. That's true. But they must have. Are the only ways to style? Because you can also give it inlines. You can also make styled. CSS stands for complete style sheet. That is a C word. Lots of C words that we, but style sheet. Uh, complete style sheets. No. Color, size, shape. That's another C word, but it's cascade. And why that's important is because you know cascading. What else cascade? Anybody want to guess for me? What else cascade? Falls down. Grandpa can cascade down the stairs. You don't want that. A waterfall cascade. Falling down. So a slinky cascade moves down. And what that means is what you write at the top as you invoke it. A key value pair that you're passing in is style sheet. It will just assume that that is most important. CSS can be used to create animations. Yeah. You can animate and see it. By default, CSS 3. This isn't the first version. All sorts of things. Okay, cool. No whammies on that. So, introduction, CSS. We've already talked about a lot of this. Cascading style sheet problem. I was going to say they're calling it an important problem. No, it solves an important problem. How to make your websites look nice. Makes them more usable and nicer looking. World Wide Web, the W Consortium's site. They design CSS. You think they could make something? Language that evolves. Always check your implementation. Some prerequisites. The prerequisites, I think that we should already know if we're looking at this. No, there's a. Oh, we already know these. Where we're talking about our HTML with our body, we've got confidence. Let element assignment operator. grabbing from the document object model, get element by ID method, call the page. But here's an item, white, yeah. And we're learning this part right here. Dots and the query. Last name. So in your Terrarium folder, let's open up our Terrarium. Oh. Get to it later. In our Terrarium, create a new file called style. Style. Go ahead and do the Terrarium file. And notice how it's already assigning icons. Just associating the dot. And then import that file in the head of a link, which is different than all these meta descriptions. Body and all. Head, not the body at the top. And then relation, what is it? It's a style sheet. Where is it coming from? href. Notice that href. Because if you're making like a static HTML website, you can absolutely import styles from the Bootstrap server reference. I give you all the styles back if you. So we've already imported that. And let's see. I need to open this. Do my little trick. Dot star is everything selector. Curly brackets like an object, and give it some value pair. Background color. Was no, it's working. Burning our the cascade. So add the inline color red to your H1 text. Wants us to find the H1 text. My Terrarium. Give it a style, quotes, color. No, notice how it's not font red or like text color red. Then add the following code to your style. Where we're invoking any H1 selector. There's only going to be the one. Say any H1, and you want to use these as often as possible. Like don't give classes unless it's necessary. If you know in your project you've only ever used H1s through 3s and Ps, and they all need to be the same, just invoke them like that. Don't. And then now let's say color blue. I see what. Where these are going to conflict. Inline styling should take precedent. Doesn't care about what's happening in the sheet yet. Because I took the time to write it. Hey, right in this element, which color this web app? It's red. Why? Because there's an order of important line. Header being next. Cascading style sheet imported next. Alt side. Can you find a way to override the style? Yeah, I mean, green here. Better for Terrarium. When would you want to do this? You'd want to do this if there's just one weird little element that keeps acting up. You don't know why, can't figure it out, but you got this one thing that should be lined up with everything else, but it's not. So you give it position absolute and you tell it where to be, stick it there. Hopefully that's good in all the use until it comes back to bite you later on. You don't do that because, like I said, the smart people, the people who are really good at front end web development, styling, they set up a hierarchy. They take advantage of the semantic markup language and they use what's already there to just style it away. And then once you invoke a template and you follow that template and you have a good template with some awesome styles all the way across the board, then it's not a big deal because of inheritance. But going in and finding this one element and giving it some styles right here, that's not inheritance, like a mutation. While that's not always a bad thing, you don't want mutants running amok project. Styles are inherited from an ancestor style to a such that nested elements inherit the styles parents. Idea for where like as your style, you're trying to make a web page, but something gets like an inline style, a little mutant, it tries to run away, and you got to hop in there and style it back in. Anyways, set the body's font to a given, copy and paste, or we can body's above H1, font, family. I'll admit it, I'm bad. Such a little thing, but it means so much to pick a font. Yeah, I feel like it doesn't even change this. Look, that it's a nice design touch. You know it's a pro whenever they're doing, whenever you see in the fonts and the little lines and little design touches. As a full stack web developer, I like to think I'm just like, does it work? How am I tracking? So it says, open your browser's console to the Elements tab and observe this. And this is cool too. Whenever you get into really advanced styling, a useful tab is what was computer bit of the box. Whenever you're fighting, line up, all is set. Finds your parent attribute. CSS selectors. These are some that come with default. By default, your body and your H1. You're already styling with these. You're already you're not styling. You're already using these in your HTML document, the div, B, and the H1. So why not take advantage of them while they're in the in your CSS sheet, cascading style sheet? Notice how all we did here was align center, pops over. That didn't used to be so whole thing. And you can give them IDs too, like all right, or I think we're coming up on class. Talk about the ID. The ID's typically reserved for JavaScript, I experience, but that's not, you can go anyway with it. But let's say a left container and a right container. We've already given these. If you look at our index HTML, we've already given them an ID of left container with a class of container, meaning both the containers are going to look like something, but the left container and the right container. So let's go ahead and write out some stuff for left container, Or it wants us to say background color, i.e. height, width, 15%, left, row pixels, top, 0 pixel, position, absolute, which very excited to put it, height, 100%, padding, 10 pixels. Let's see what this does. So it's made kind of a bar over here. All it's done. Left containers now over here on the left. All the image. And then it's going to have us do the same thing over here. Copy. Paste that. But instead of left, it's going to say right container. Okay, it's still position absolute 100%. Top 0. Right. Look, go up and save it. Now we have right. Cool. Place these containers with absolute positioning on the far left and the far right, meaning nowhere this code is quite repeated. I think they mean competitive, marky. Somebody wants to get involved in the project, go ahead. Call them out on it. Thus not dry. Do not repeat yourself. There are ways of doing this in a dry manner. Have them in. Need to change it, factor it. Homework, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I might ask us. So you style 2 unique elements. Now we're going to style the same element over and over. Because we gave 14 different elements plant holder. And 14 different elements a class of plant as well. And then they all have different IDs. Let's style the 14 plant holders. They're going to have a position relative, a height, 13%, left, now we have 7 going down instead of 14 going all the way down. Cool. Now we need to style the plants. Call the plant a position. Max width 150. Max height at 150. So now what's happened is all of the plant images, 7 here and all 7 here, are on the left. Stacked up. Plant holders are relative. Plants have absolute. So why do you need both a plant holder and a plant CSS selector? Because we're going to be dragging, dropping the CSS positioning. Talked about absolute error, relative position based on the CSS's way from its position. Be confused. Experiment with switching. Then let's try that real quick. Okay. Relative. Now we see all of our images lined up. They're much smaller. This is much more readable. It's cuter. Probably more like whatever it's done. We still need to style the jar in the middle. Not what we want. Okay, now we read our mind or read our mind. What you learned to build the terrain, our walls, save. Okay, the jar where we did height and width, gave it a background color, rounded out the corners with the border radius, put it right in the middle, and we gave it a z index of 1, which allows the plants to be on top of it. Jar top. Our top has a read through this width to 50%. It's going to be a lot of the page. It's going to be pretty narrow. Same color as the jar. Absolute position. Exactly where top. It's not jar bottom. Same deal. Absolute positioning with an opacity of 0.07. Oh, they're doing opacity of 0.05, opacity of 0.1 is opaque. Means you can't see through. Darker, 0.05, lighter, 0.07 is same color, just slightly different opacity. And then the dirt in the they've given it a z index of -1 behind everything. With the border radius, this is interesting what they've done right here. 0, 0, which means the top left and the top right hand corner, no curve. 1, 1, that's your bottom right and bottom left hand corners. A whole lot more. Now it's like sharp to the. Okay. So try changing the chart color and capacity. We already did that. What happened? Add a bubble shine. Bubble shine element. Long bar. Want to do the bubble shine? Fun little. That's better. Good. So now we've got the terrariums. Last thing it would want us to do, glossy elements. Talking about glossy long. Not glossy long. One. So we don't want that. We want it to be all the way long like. Now we can down here and Want the height to want the width to be 5%. Now let's move up. Up. That's Glossy Long. Long. Glossy. Of the bottom. Long glossy. Awesome. Cool, we did it. The homework. Post lecture quiz. Knock that out. You can write CSS directly in the head section of your HTML file. You can put it in the head section. We can do inline styling, or we can use. It's always necessary to include CSS in your app. No. Ooh. But if you want to look good, you probably want it to look good. Which browser tools can be used to elements? Things like a styles window, or your network packets. All right, cool. Good. Where we at? Got a couple minutes. Update our logs real quick before we dive in. CSS refactoring. Flexbox Froggy. Super important to play that at some point in your coding career. Grid Garden. There's a bunch of games. Logs. Okay, so section this pro lecture, and now we're updating. Now we're gonna do homepage. I want to turn the cards into social media links. Move link page. We want to get rid of that if we have time. Divide the hero in half. Style the about page. We have an opportunity, and reaching. Put a form in contact. We'll be lucky to get. It's going to be a lot. 20 minutes. But we'll see what we can do. So just looking at our website, what we have right now, push. We'll say we styled Terrarium. Put Pivot to code. Start. Thanks so much for spending your Friday with me. A lot. Want to say hello in the chat. Happy Friday. Bye. Learn to use. Free to say. So this is where we're at. Developing this. And I think we have these technology, learning, community, documentation. I like all those notions. That's true. That's what we're about. But I think we need to change them just to our presence where we have right now. And then also another problem while looking at this page, it looks pretty good, but this banner's not at all made for. So if we actually put this in a column and another row, I'm talking about the hero section at the top. We put this into a column with another row, I think it'll look a lot better. So let's go ahead and try that out. Where do we start? Start with the hero. Start at the top and work. So hero section. We're going to need to bring in all of the same column and row. And we're going to do it the same way where we call a div, put it all in a row, and it has to be in a column itself. Div, fragment, div, all of this row, that, but this column, one side. Another column here. Another column. Coding. Okay. See? Doesn't that look a little better? That's not what I want. I was hoping this would maintain its size and cascade below it, but we're working on it. So what we need to do is React. One of one. How would one fall? Offset. This variable with content. Content. This is what we wanted. One of 3 container. think I want this column 3 variable with content. Auto. All these up. Okay. Fell down. Look it. Pressed it way over here. We don't want that. We want to say nothing. That's okay. And it's like, okay. That's kind of what I was going. Then we can style this section. And I want this side on the left to have like my logo be animated. And I want this side on the right to be like, hey, click here, animation on the background. Okay. Button. Below that, we still want to div. Maybe style this. How that looks. Good. We're okay. What else do we want to change? Web page can our icon section. All of these. Sure, they already have. FA Twitter. Awesome. Twitter. Brand. So we want a GitHub. I want a LinkedIn. Want a rebrand. We got Twitter, a GitHub, a Twitch. It knows. Server. Vendor. So how many? Hasn't. right. That worked. And they're all coming from the same one. I guess the Intellisense. Have the packages. Thought it was up a little. Very cool. That looks a little bit better. Let's put them in order though, because we hub. Twitter. Okay. That's a little more practical. Now there's actually some utility. I'm here. Good. So now that we have all that in place, I'm very sorry to see it go, but we can remove the links. But we don't have these links. At GitHub. Go to the link. GitHub. Our Twitch ref. What else? Twitter. Hey. Boom. Do better than that. Coding Curricula. Hub. Works. Twitch. Twitter. Okay. That start. And I think a good stopping point where we're at. We didn't get as far as I wanted. Let's remove this links page. Right quick. Call it a day. Where we actually need to take a app.js. Going to go ahead and get route. Whole route. Our navigation. Oh, any navigation. Out, need to out contact policy. There's some touches, but yeah, it's coming together. better. It actually has some utility there. All the some of our resources. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you so much. Happy Friday. It's great seeing you and being here and helping you out. Let's go ahead and real quick push those changes across. Updated main page. But that's what we did. And we also, just for review, we knocked out all of this. Today was CSS styling, an introduction to CSS, and we what have we got after CSS is obviously not obviously, but probably going to be adding some JavaScript. We started the Terrarium yesterday with HTML. Today we styled it. Looks like a jar with some plants around it to the left and the right. Next week we're going to finish it off. On Monday we're going to use some JavaScript closures, manipulation. That'll be fun. And after that, next week we'll also do a typing game and just it looks like. And then we start the green browser. Looks like we'll be able to finish that by next Friday. I've never made a browser building that. Sure to tune in. And then the following week, our last week together. No, there's 2 more weeks. A space game will be the next week, and then a banking app will be the very last. So, yeah. Into week 2, huzzah, great session. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Friday. I hope to see you next week. And if you missed anything, be sure to check out my YouTube. Everybody have a great week.